Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Corey and Evelin. Let's watch.
There was a lot of miscommunications. It's been like when you build a house, you have to make like a super strong base. And I think that Corey and I never got a really strong base, and we've been just trying to build something over this really bad base. So maybe we just have to start from zero and actually build it properly.
All right, that's interesting, and that makes sense. And you could just say that to Corey and just say, look, let's call off the engagement. Let's start over again. That's what I want to do. Now, Corey might say, I can't do that. But this in-between zone where she's like, yes, I want to be engaged to you, but I don't want to marry you.
En retrospectiva, sí. No me ha escrito.
No?
No sé nada.
Corey, no?
Me bloqueó de Instagram.
See? Corey can behave like a teenager sometimes. But he should be open to be friends with Raul because they were friends before he said these things.
This logic, I don't. Now, if Corey wanted to be friends with Raul and say, well, you know, he likes my fiance, what are you going to do? I trust him that he's not going to, assault her, and that I trust Evelin that she's not going to cheat on me. So, but he's deciding that he doesn't want to be friends with Raul, which a lot of people would agree with. And as a part of that, he feels hurt, he feels betrayed by Raul, which makes sense. Not everyone would feel that way, but it makes sense that Corey does. And so he isn't communicating with Raul and has blocked him on Instagram. I think that's customary given what Raul did. And they're all like, what? That's crazy. Now, I could see Raul being like, I wish it hadn't had come to that. But I can see why he did that, but it kind of bums me out. I'd understand that. But for Evelin to say that, just think about this logic, that because they were friends before Corey knew that they got together, before Corey knew that Raul was pining after Evelin, that because of that, because he was friends with Raul before he learned these very concerning things, he should continue to be friends with him. Now, I guess on some level I agree with it, because it's like, well, if you're friends, then you got along well. So, why throw that away? But the lack of empathy, the lack of putting yourself in his shoes. I mean, you don't have to agree, but you could say like, well, I get it. But I don't know. It's just interesting to see their attitude.
Ridículo. Yo soy el único amigo que ha tenido aquí, en las buenas y en las malas.
Sí, pero te bloqueó, ¿sí?
Sí, pero me dijo que siempre sea honesta con él.
No, you haven't been always honest with him. And that's what you said in the tell-all. I'm being punished because I'm being honest. You weren't being honest. You lied by omission. While you were friends with him the entire time, which I think was over several months, you were secretly lying by omission, pining after his girlfriend, and thinking, and because you said this during the tell-all, that things don't last forever, and I'm guessing this gringo is not going to last with Evelin, and then when they break up, then I will get with Evelin. So you lied by omission. You were not being honest. Now, as I said during the tell-all episode, you pine after, you have feelings, and you can't do anything about that. But to, one, actively go along with those feelings, which we don't know how much he was going, but he did say he was going along with those feelings and having conscious plans for the future. But he also lied about it by omission. He didn't bring it up. So there's contention that, one, that Corey is some kind of troubled individual and childish for feeling hurt and for cutting himself off from. I don't understand that logic. And two, that you are 100% honest with him. It's an interesting way of thinking about it.
Demasiado honesto, porque ese fue el problema. No deberías haberle dicho ninguna de esas cosas.
Yeah, eso estaba muy loco.
Mira, y a veces las emociones no las puedes controlar.
At the tell-all, I was so surprised about what.
Right, I agree with what Raul said. Sometimes you can't control your emotions. Absolutely. If you have feelings for someone, sometimes you just don't have any control over that. But you do have control over what you do as those feelings are coming up. The feeling comes up, you can say, that's my friend's girlfriend, not going to entertain it. I'm going to try to not think about that. I'm not going to fantasize actively. I'm not going to make plans for the future. I just notice it. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm going to try to get rid of that feeling. Yeah, but Raul talked about having plans. That's, you can do something about making plans.
Raul say, like, we're always hang out, we're friends.
Yo no sé qué
Pero tú
pasa.
si quieres hablar con Corey.
Obvio. Mis sentimientos hacia él no han cambiado. Y mi amistad hacia él es verdadera.
And I said during the tell-all that the way Raul presents, I believe him, that his friendship with Corey is true, that he wasn't a friend with Corey in some manipulative way. Raul comes across as someone who is, I don't know, just beyond certain narrow values, if you will. And for him, he's like, hey, it's all good. I really appreciate Corey, and he's a great guy. And I have these really intense feelings for his girlfriend, and maybe we'll get together one day. Yeah, and I think those things can live in the same person, like Raul. But the fact that Raul can't empathize, and particularly that Evelin can't empathize with Corey, is worrisome.
I want to see him and I want to ask him why he's so mad at me. He told me if I could be anything, I should be honest.
Yeah, from the beginning. I don't understand this. Let's give a stark example. I go to Umberto, my friend, I go to his house in the middle of the night and I steal his TV. And then a year or two later, so he goes through all this trouble of someone broke into my house. They stole my TV. I don't know what's going to happen. File a police report. We're scared. Someone got to buy a new TV. And then 2 years later, I'm like, by the way, that was me. And then Umberto was angry at me. And I'm like, hey, I'm just being honest with you. I'm being punished because I'm being honest? No. You're not being punished because you're being honest. You're being punished because you did something that was hurtful in the beginning. You're being not punished. Someone is hurt because you did something hurtful, and now you're finally revealing it.
5 años que hemos estado.
¿Estarías dispuesto a estar con él por toda la vida?
Sí, I understand Raul trying to be honest, but after 5 years of me dating Corey, I just want Raul to understand that I am just his friend and he should respect Corey. Corey viene mañana.
Okay, that's nice that Evelin is like, hey, advocating for Corey in this way. So it's a good sign. Again, with Evelin, I'm going back and forth. Sometimes there seems to be no indication of love and connection and empathy, and then other times, absolutely, indications of love and empathy. So I don't know. Let me know what do you think? Do you think Evelin really loves him? Do you think Evelin really wants to? Now, this is in the past, and I'm sort of catching my way up to the current season. So maybe I'll know where this ends up.
I want to get married. I want to have Ecuadorian citizenship. I want to be able to stay with you forever.
Can we talk about this subject in a little bit later, after a month of you being here or something, so we can see how things develop?
All right, it makes sense, both of them, and it would make sense that both of them would be a deal breaker to each other. For him, he's like, look, either we get married, we set a date, and you agree, or the relationship ends. And I think that makes sense. For her, she interprets that as an ultimatum. I think it's just a rational response. They've been together for 5 years. They've been engaged for I don't know how long. And for her, she's like, and I get her side too, that, look, I might want to marry you, but I'm not sure yet. So why don't you stay here for a while? We'll get to know each other. We'll also feel out what this relationship can be like. And if things go well, then yes, I will marry you and we will set a date. So, I get we're both, now for him, that might be a deal breaker. And for her, the ultimatum might be a deal breaker, which I understand.
It's too soon to talk about these things right now.
Yeah, I mean, you just got here and you're like, are we gonna be together? And I'm like, no, I want a big wedding. I'm like, oh my God.
Now this attitude she has, I don't understand. I think they can both hear each other, not like what they're hearing, but also respect it. But she's saying, she's ridiculing him, making fun of him, like, oh my God, you just landed here, you're talking about marriage. No, a long time ago, he proposed, and ever since then, he's been talking about, okay, when are we going to get married? And there's been a lot of indications that you don't want to get married. And so, yeah, he came down, and one of the first things he wants to talk about is that, which makes sense. You're engaged. He wants to talk about a possible wedding date. And he's not being annoying about it, I don't think. And so I think it's only annoying to her because she doesn't want to talk about it. And so her way of managing that is to ridicule him instead of just being like, okay, I understand where he's coming from. It makes sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense.
I want to walk the world with you, but not because you need me, but because we both want to.
My initial plan was to come here.
Okay, she said something interesting, and at first I didn't understand what she meant, but I think I do, and she's indicated this in the past. She said, I want to walk the world with you. Now, that's not saying I want to get married to you, so that's notable, but she's saying, and maybe it means that, but I don't necessarily think it means that. I want to walk the world with you, but I need to know that you don't need me, and I need us to both want to get married. And I think what she's saying is, I only want to be with you forever if you stop being so dependent on me. Now, they haven't shown that dependency on the show very much. They haven't really gone into much depth of this couple at all, really. But we can take her word for it, and I think it's probably both. I think on one hand, he is more of a pursuer, and he is more, she's talked about, I didn't show it, how they have a dynamic where she's the mom and he's the son. He's trying to force that. We didn't see a lot of evidence of that, but we'll take her word for it. So I think on one hand, not extreme, but I think there's a little bit of that. Possibly there's evidence that he actually is, he attaches to her in a dependent way and wants to regress to that of a child so that maybe he can correct for some kind of neglect he went through growing up. Who knows? Or it just feels safer to him or something like that. And she's talked about how she wants an equal partner and how there's a cultural value, according to her in Ecuador, that men are supposed to be extremely independent and extremely not dependent. That's not the word she used, but that was essentially what she was saying. And so not only does she want an equal partner, but it's also, which would be in line with a lot of the goals that she has in life, but she also wants a man's man, if you will. And I've also been hypothesizing that attachment-wise, she definitely likes to attach, but she wants the freedom to detach at times. Not to be with other people, but some space emotionally and physically. And everyone has their different preference regarding that. Some people want 24/7, and it'd be best if you met someone else that was also like that. Some people want something in the middle. Some people want to have very occasional interactions. And anything more than that, it feels claustrophobic. And to people who are 24/7, to not be 24/7 feels very neglectful or scary or isolating or alone or something. So there's a variance in how people are and their preference, and it's something that people don't talk about a lot and can have a lot of misunderstandings around it. And there's nothing pathological the other side. The 24/7 people will be called codependent. What they mean is dependent personality disorder. And to the people on this end of the spectrum, they're seen as cold, or they're commitment phobic or this sort of thing. And the way I'm describing them, there's nothing wrong with them. Now, some people can become commitment phobic for sure, and some people can become dependent, but there's a different dimension of just that preference. And I think for Corey, he's much more of a 24/7 sort of person. He's towards that end of the spectrum. And for Evelin, she is at the other end of the spectrum. Now, that doesn't mean that they're completely incompatible. It just means that they have to respect each other and understand each other while asserting. Evelin can say, look, I get it. I want to be with you. But I feel like you sort of invade my space emotionally and physically a lot. I want to be with you, but I don't want this all-enveloping situation. I respect that you want that, but I don't want that. So can we work something out here? So that's a way to talk about it. And the reverse could be said for me. He could say, like, look, I get the impression like you don't want this 24/7 thing like I do. I respect that, and it still hurts me. How can we work on this? But instead, it's ridicule that she will do. There's something wrong with you is the vibe that she has. Now, behind the scenes, maybe there is something wrong with him. Maybe he is extremely dependent and forces her into the mom role in a way that we haven't seen because we understand that the relationship is much bigger than what we've seen on the show.
Here to give you your space to live alone, and we can slowly work into developing something and building our wedding and planning for that.
Right, that's another sign that she feels claustrophobic, that he is coming down, they're engaged, and she required him to get his own place. I wouldn't be surprised if she is at that end of the spectrum where she wants her own space. She feels very much invaded when people live in her space. And these sorts of people might do well. Sometimes even, there are people who are married and do perfectly well and they don't live together, or they sleep in different rooms, or they have, one travels a lot and they do fine. So maybe Evelin is at the end of the spectrum, or she just needs some ramping up or something. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
I just hope that you have similar feelings that I do.
But we also need to make sure we're both happy. I don't think that all the controlling thing with like me not being able to hang out with my friends, I don't think that it's a good thing. Like, I don't want to have that kind of life.
All right, so she's saying that he is controlling and doesn't allow her to hang out with her friends. If that's true, then yeah, yikes. We didn't see that. And of course, we know that there's more to this than what is on the show. What we saw was that he was saying he doesn't want her to hang out with her ex-boyfriend who she cheated with, or that's how they saw it as cheating, even though she was on a break, or they were on a break, or she thought they were on a break and he thought they were kind of on a break. Anyway, and maybe he also is worried about Raul, which, I'm on the fence about. On one hand, I get that he would be threatened by Raul because of the betrayal, lying by omission, that kind of thing, and saying, I don't want him to be a part of my life. I don't want him to be a part of your life. So maybe that's what they're talking about. But if generally speaking, he's saying, I don't want you to hang out with your friends, because there was some indication, I don't think I showed that clip, where he was like, yeah, I'm up in the States. She's down in Ecuador. She's hanging out with her friends. She's going out all the time. I'm worried that they're going to influence her. So we can imagine a world in which he was at least giving the vibe, if not the flat out statement of, I don't want you hanging out with your friends.
Don't you think you're going to be living here?
Here in this place?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it depends how it goes with me and you, I guess. I'm playing hard to get, and that's something I've never done before.
What's writing?
All right, that is telling that he's joking, and we don't know how accurate this is, but I believe him that he has never played hard to get before. And right now he is trying to play hard to get. I would say he's not really playing hard to get. He might just be not pursuing as much. And sometimes when I'm working with someone who has a problem with pursuing and pushing people away, I will try to push them if it helps. It doesn't always help, but in a direction where they feel like they're playing hard to get, but in reality, they're just allowing someone to have their own space. And they'll feel as though they're playing hard to get, but really they're probably still pursuing a little bit, but relative, they feel like they're playing hard to get. So it's possible that there's some functionality to that, some advisability to that, but there's also a possibility that he's trying to manipulate her by acting like he isn't totally in love with her. I've heard of people doing this sort of thing before, where they're trying to cajole someone to love them, and they've tried all sorts of things, and as one of the last resorts, they're like, well, if I act like I don't love them, maybe they'll love me. It's not the best strategy. Sometimes what do I say? I will say that in reference to what I was saying earlier, if by saying I'm going to play hard to get equals you giving someone space and not being annoyingly pursuing, then that, like I said, can be healthy. But to just act different, to try to manipulate someone, I don't think that's a great way to start a relationship. She either really loves him or she doesn't. She either loves him for who he is. That's another thing to think about. Like, if you're Corey, is, well, this is who I am. I'm kind of a lovey-dovey dude, and I'm kind of a pursuer. And I keep changing for her sake. At what point am I saying she's in love with a version of me, but not the real me? Now, I don't know. It's just some questions.
Do you have a table?
I'm a new man, Evelyn. I come prepared these days.
You came prepared with a table.
I'm a new man. What can I say?
Now, on the other hand, he might be actually doing a whole suite of behaviors to become more independent and less needy of her, which absolutely provides some balance in their relationship so that she can feel more free to love him. That might actually work.
Salute.
We have never had a relationship when he is independent, so it feels different, but I like it. I want to say that I'm really proud that you're doing all these things that I have asked you for years. Going to buy your things by yourself and get yourself a place. So bravo to you.
So it's good. It sounds like it is in line with what will help, and she's being very nice about it, which is great. But she has a but here. Let's hear what this is.
Also, I miss you.
I miss you so much, too.
You can move back with me whenever you want.
Yeah?
Okay? Doors of the house are always open.
I would love.
All right, so she's saying you can move back in with me, and he wants to move back in with her. But I wonder if it would be advisable that he not. That for the two of them, at least at this stage, to be apart, living apart, actually facilitates her warmth and her love of him. I've seen that before. Sometimes it can be worked in a way where it can work in a relationship. Other times, though, I've worked with people like Evelyn, I don't know if this is the case for Evelyn, where they will vacillate extremely between, oh my God, this is the one person, to, I can't stand this person. And they will vacillate. There's no in between. It's either totally I'm in or totally I am out. And they will go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. There are various different possibilities as to why that is. Commonly, it's because of extreme avoidant attachment wounds. But I don't know. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.